and owning your life, like by taking 100% responsibility. We mentioned it just earlier when we were talking about it. I'm going to ask you a question before you talk about that answer. Was there a time in your life where you didn't take responsibility for something?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love how quick that answer came. Man, you want to talk about honesty, people. Should I ask you another, as we're on that path?
Go.
Do you think, and this is going to be, we're peeling back the layers of this today. Do you think that comes from, because everybody has these feelings. Do you think it comes from a mentality or a thinking of lack versus abundance when we go into those conversations and we're hoping somebody's going to do something for us?
You know, for me, it's not so much that as we forget that there's magic in each moment if we just pause long enough. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nancy Matthews Show. And today we're turning the tables on me a little bit. I have with me today my mentor, my friend, my brother, my colleague, a man who has known me since the One Philosophy was simply the spirit in which I lived, long before the book was ever written. He has been my mentor and my guide, holding the vision and holding me up, believing in me at times when it's faltered a little bit. So there's some honesty for you. Duane Cummings is with us today. He is a sensational man, a sensational businessman,
I'll be a woman.
You'll be a woman, right? A sensational businessman, a sensational leader. He has been involved in sports, athletics, coaching, business mergers and acquisitions, former CEO of LeaderCast. The list goes on. And above all else, the spirit in which he operates is why he's here today to interview me about the One Philosophy.
Oh, thank you. I am humbled, and I would be a man or a woman in this situation because it's such an honor to be here. And I get to chat with you about the One Philosophy. So yeah.
We like talking about that.
Yeah, I love talking about it because I not only have my soft back, but I have my hard back. So I have both. So we can keep it soft in this session, or we can get hard and get after it. Either way. So so let's dig in. Is that all right?
Yeah, let's go.
I know this is a big twist for you because you usually are on the other side of the microphone. You're a fantastic interviewer. You bring out the best in people. So I'm going to work hard and strive to let the world know how amazing you are. They already know, but I'm going to try to give them some new nuggets. So let's start with this. I kind of know, but how did the One Philosophy come to being? And you said it in your intro, you were living this before it was a book. But what was the catalyst? What was the spark? What was that moment when you were like, aha, this is the One Philosophy?
It really came about on one morning in particular. I was on my way to have a meeting with Trina Robinson, for a local TV news anchor here in Miami, Florida. And I noticed myself getting so excited. I was going to go have lunch with Trina. And yeah, we were talking about me helping her write a book, but what if she could be the one that was going to help me get a TV show going? I've always wanted to have a TV show. My mind just started going in all these directions of things that I hoped to get out of the meeting, right? And then I started, I want to make sure I pay attention and really, listen carefully and show her how important I think she is. And all those things were true feelings. But in that moment, I recognized the change in my behavior when I thought about her as the one who was going to do something for me.
Yeah.
And
Should I ask you another, as we're on that path?
go.
Do you think, and this is going to be, we're peeling back the layers of this today. Do you think that comes from, because all kinds of, everybody has these feelings. Do you think it comes from a mentality or a thinking of lack versus abundance when we go into those conversations and we're hoping somebody's going to do something for us?
You know, for me, it's not so much that as we forget that there's magic in each moment if we just pause long enough. And here's what I mean by that. So the way that I got introduced to Trina, she got on one of my teleclasses. Somehow she got on our email list, got on one of our teleclasses and started asking some questions. And she was treated, not knowing who she was, with respect and interest and to be of service. And it was that spirit that allowed our relationship to develop into going to have a meeting. So I don't, for me, it's not about a lack or an abundance mentality. It's about forgetting that opportunities are everywhere. If we just pause long enough to remember that it's people through which those opportunities are going to be revealed. And we've got to be present with people. We stopped paying enough attention to the people in our close-knit lives, in our circles. Everything is about people. It's not about the to-do list, right?
Right. I'm glad you cleared that up, because there are some people that would think like, oh, I have to meet that person because I don't have this and I need that. Right. And thank you again for clarifying that. We kind of talked in the past and looked at it like you're bringing a couple of ingredients together, and sometimes you do have to just let them, you said pause, but just let them marinate, or, you know, like yeast and flour and water and salt, and it just let it go and then it rises. So this wasn't your first book though. I should go back a little further. Like, you're not a rookie writer. Like, this isn't your first rodeo on being an author. What was your first book again for the audience? I know, but
the first book was Visionaries with Guts. And that was an anthology book that was, what does it take to be a visionary with guts? My sister Susan coined that phrase for me at one of our events way back in the day, 2008. And when she called me a visionary with guts, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just Nancy, right? What are you talking about?
Well, so since you have some compare and contrast, what was the difference in writing the one philosophy versus the visionary with guts? Like, what was some big differences?
You know, honestly, it was scarier to write the one philosophy. And I've done several anthology compilation books, and the way I did Visionaries with Guts, there was a little bit of me in it and mostly other people being highlighted, because I do love to do that. But when I was writing the one philosophy, like, is it good enough? Are people going to really get it? And truth be told, I just released the third edition of the book because I thought the first edition was really good, but it went a little sideways, and we could talk about that if you want.
Yeah, by all means, when you say sideways, like, you mean it only showed up in Russia, or it only, what do you mean by sideways? Because there's only one philosophy, right? So elaborate on that for us.
Yeah, so what happened is, when some people read the book or even heard me speak about it, what they took away from my message was I was telling them that the ones that are meant to support you and help you grow your business, your life, your vision, bring it forward, they're everywhere. So rather than, so the focus turned to, oh, are you the one? Could you be the one? It was like a taking mentality, rather than missing the essential ingredient of how the ones appear. It starts with you being the one who values the other person first.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I known you for a decade now or longer. So I know that's not where you come from. That's not your spirit, your heart. You're always of service, and you're being, generous to other people. So one, if we go back, you put yourself out there. It was scary, as you said. You're putting your own thoughts. It's not a compilation. And now after the first version, people are taking it and kind of
The wrong
moving it in.
way.
Yeah, they're moving it in the wrong direction. So how did that make you feel inside when you started getting that feedback and you started seeing people like they were championing the book? I remember lots of people, pictures, and I've got this book and look how it's changed my life and look what I'm doing with it. How did it make you feel?
So my initial reaction was to be defensive. So
Yeah,
total transparency.
because it's your baby and somebody's attacking it, maybe, right?
Right. Somebody just
not
said my
treating it
baby was ugly.
Yeah.
So that was my initial reaction. Was I got defensive and I was like, no, that's not what I meant. They should be able to see it. And they, if they're seeing it that way, that's their problem and blah, blah, you know, I went there for a little bit. And then I remembered principle number 4 in the book.
Yeah. Own your life by taking 100% responsibility.
Right. So when I got through the emotional reaction to that, and I really thought about it and said, well, how could I make it more clear? How could I let people know that, yeah, you're going to meet the ones, but that's the effect, not the cause, right? The cause is being the one first, and then those effects are going to show up. So that's why I did a second edition. And I feel like I did well, very well, actually, in that second edition and refining the message and making sure that it was clear. Everything starts with us being the one first, then everything can unfold.
Yeah. So then I got to ask, why a third revision? Why a third edition? Like,
there were 2 main inspirations behind the third edition. One was I wanted to include some of the amazing stories that have transpired by people living the one philosophy since it first came out in 2013. So that was one. I wanted more demonstrations for people to see themselves in some of these stories, and how being the one first, they'd be able to experience it for themselves and everyone around them. The second is I layered in an additional research related to just basic study and that I've done about human behavior and the way that the brain works and how our subconscious minds and our fears get in the way. So I wanted to layer those pieces in, as well as provide some additional tools to support people in moving through to be the one. Because the only reason we're not the one all the time is we're afraid, worried, scared. Like, it's just what happens.
Yeah. So you made them better. You made it better. You just continued to improve it, which is awesome, because it was already a fantastic, world changing, philosophy. Now, if you've added more current stories, this is what's going on, that kind of thing, then just makes it better for everyone. Makes it more digestible, I guess you could say, right?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's what I wanted. Yeah.
So how long did it take you to write this book? Because it's not a real thick book in pages, but in theory, it's millennia of thought, right? And practice and action and habit. You basically compressed humankind into that, like the way we should behave. So how long did it take to write that?
Well, I wrote it and I rewrote it and I wrote it.
Yeah, because you've done 3 revisions, right? Or 3 editions. So you're still writing it, I know, is the real answer. But like when you first sat down and put pen to paper and you felt like, okay, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I know this, I live this. Now I just got to put it into some words where people can go and do it themselves. Was it an epiphany? You sat down and just boom, 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 boom? Or
so the initial creation of it, the outline and the foundation, because I didn't intend to write a book about this. I had been teaching this, be the one. I've been teaching it for 3 years before I published the book. Like when you and I met, there was no book. We were just treating each other in that way, which is one of the reasons we had such a great connection, is because you live the one philosophy. And when we meet like-minded people, right, that happens. So as I was speaking on it, people were like, oh, do you have a book about this? And I was like, no, maybe I need to write a book about this. So the initial book, I would say the bones of it took me 2 or 3 weeks to do the bones of it. And then the whole process the first time around was a couple of months between edits and adding to and things like that.
Sure. Yeah, and it probably, I, I don't want to say it did, but you would probably admit it might have almost wrote itself because you, like you say, you were living it, right? So
Yeah,
it's
it
just,
did.
yeah.
Well, let me share this, because
Yeah.
when people started asking me, do you have a book about this? And this is before I had the 6 principles or any of that stuff. I was just saying, treat everyone as the one, magic will happen. Imagine a world where everybody treats each other that way. Like, that's been my vision for so long. And so I thought, well, if we're all going to treat each other as the one, well, then who do I need to be? What are the
Mm.
practices in my own life that are going to support me in living that and in being that? And that's where the 6 principles came.
Yeah. So the 6 principles, we don't want to give everything away in the book, but that's a foundation. It's, it's interesting because there's also kind of an acronym of the one in those 6, right? THEONE. And the first one is what we both like to do, but in this situation, I'm doing more of it, you're doing more of it, which is talk less and listen more. That's like principle number 1. So who's the best listener you've ever had in your life? You've known.
Best listener. Let me tell you, I'm not saying this to blow smoke, but it's got to be you, my friend.
Wow. This, ladies and gentlemen, this was not a setup. This was not a setup. And now I have to go and recover for a minute. Well, that's a very kind gift.
I want to tell you why. So the way that you listen from several different perspectives. You listen from what I'm saying. You listen from what I'm saying and how it might impact you or the person sitting next to me. You have this ability of expansive listening. We talk about active listening. You actually have what I would call expansive listening.
Wow. Well, that's a very, very kind and generous gift you just gave. I don't know if that phrase is coined or trademarked or copyrighted, but I had never heard that. And that's, I'm humbled that you described me that way. So now take me off the palette. Who are some other really good listeners in your life that you go to and they listen, not to reply, but they listen to understand?
My sister Susan is really good at that also. Really, really good at that. She has the capacity while I'm sharing something to go, oh, and just let me express what I need to. And this beautiful space gets created where it feels safe. It feels easy. Because here's what happens in conversation when there's back and forth so fast without enough time for either party to absorb it. We're in reactionary mode. And maybe I didn't fully express myself before somebody said something, right? And then people feel shut down.
Yeah, that's very intuitive. Yeah, you and I are both fairly quick-witted. We speak for a living, so we get into verbal fencing and verbal dancing, and sometimes we step on each other's toes, and we can go very fast. But I think when you said create that space to absorb, that's magic. Like when you're not worrying about knocking it back over to the other side of the net, when you just sit there and let it come and really understand. So I can imagine why, talk less and listen more is the number 1 principle, because it all starts, listening will allow you to understand, and that allows you to be empathetic, put yourself in the other person's position, and you start. So, a ton about principle number 2, right? Because you're visionary with gut. So hold your vision and share it with others. That's principle number 2, right?
That is principle number 2. And because in this magic, and I'm going to call it magic, of living the one philosophy, it comes back to people. We are not meant to do this thing called life by ourselves.
Amen.
And the people that are meant to support your journey, help your journey, you help their journeys, visions are similar. Like there's a reason why it takes a lot of people to build a rocket or a pyramid or any of those things, not just one person creating these massive things that cause good and change in the world. So you have to hold your vision, know what it is that you want, and be brave enough to share it with others so that the ones who are meant to be part of your journey will become visible to you. They're already there. It's a matter of you having the courage to share your vision without expectation. That's where this getting thing and looking for the ones can get a little hazy again. But it's trusting the process, that if I hold my vision and I share it, the people that I'm meant to be with are going to come towards me. That's all.
Yeah, I think in this world of, tweets and short attention spans, people's vision changes. And when you have something clear and long range and you can keep an eye on it, it allows you to see everything else along the way. So looking further away actually allows you to see everything between now and that further away point. So you casting that long one philosophy vision was awesome because it's very inclusive and lets things come. So what was your vision for the book? I know you were already speaking, you had a vision of making the world a better place, as Pollyanna as it sounds, but when the book comes to life, like what's your vision for it?
My vision for the book itself is that it's in our school systems, that children are brought up and these 6 principles are reinforced and become commonplace. Like imagine bullying being eliminated because kids are taught to live the one philosophy, and that by doing so, it's not about sacrificing anything. It's that living these principles gives you your best life and also creates the best life for others. Like there's this beautiful dance of how it can all be. And the principles are simple, not always easy to follow, and we need reminders. So I want it in the school systems. I want corporations to use it. These 6 principles are so simple and easy to remember. We just need to reinforce it. I want it everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah, and it should be. And I think you're spot on with talking about getting it into the schools, getting it into younger minds. I mean, look, the golden rule, like that's something all kids kind of get taught in one culture or another. It's, treat others the way you want to be treated. So the one philosophy should hang right there. And it kind of leads us into, the third principle, or the E in the, which is exhibit exemplary behavior.
Yeah, not always easy to say. I sometimes think I should have picked something easier.
No. It's good. We need it. I should have opened and tested out my speaking first. No, but kids, if we can teach kids to behave a certain way when they're younger, being kind and being generous and being good listeners and holding on to a vision for themselves and those kind of things, their life is definitely going to have a different trajectory, right? So getting that book in early, and then, So how did your upbringing, and share as much as you want or not want, impact how you think of behavior? Because if I remember right, like you're a Catholic school girl, right? New Yorker, so I don't know if it was rulers on the back of the hands or.
Yeah, so youngest of 4 kids. I was the only one of us that did not go to Catholic school. My brothers and sisters got the rulers on the back of the hands with Sister Mary Amarabilis. Don't know why I remember that great name, but it's a good one.
It's easier to say than exhibit exemplary behavior.
I know, apparently. So when you asked that question in terms of my upbringing, the first thing I went to was, I don't know that I had good role models for that in my life. And I think I grew up with a lot of do as I say, not as I do behavior around me, and I didn't like it. So first time this has come up for me, that I actually lived that principle because I didn't like how it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, sorry to bring that up if it brought up some,
It's okay.
tough feelings. And when I said it was easier to say her name than, your lesson or your principal, I wasn't saying that as a dig. I think it was interesting that you didn't go to that school and you weren't in Catholic school and yet you remember her. And so it would be fun to figure out like why, like maybe you saw your siblings and their behavior around this person. So even though you didn't have that interaction, vicariously through them, you have something going on with behavior, right?
Definitely. She was a tough cookie is what I remember. I don't think I even ever met that nun, to tell you the truth, but I heard
Yeah. So
stories about Sister Mary Amorabilis.
yeah. So, and then that's, your reputation precedes you. And so, you demonstrate exemplary behavior all the time when I'm around and when I'm not around. I've seen you,
Hi.
I've seen you from a distance. I've seen you on video. I've seen you, your level of courtesy and awareness and your EQ is off the charts. And so you're displaying these, which is awesome. Is this a difficult one that you like holding your vision? You kind of have to remind yourself, that's my vision, stay on it. Do you have to remind yourself about your behaviors, or are they so ingrained now you don't worry about it?
Great question. I don't have to remind myself about my behaviors because I have long been committed, decades now, to a daily practice of setting intentions of who I want to be and how I want to show up in the day, specifically as it relates to me, my family, my vision, other people that I meet. I'm very intentional around that.
Mm-hmm.
Where it comes up is, and I'll go back to when we talked about the book, the first version of the book. I got defensive. I turned into, well, it's their fault, blah, 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 blah. So where the discipline and thoughtfulness, mindfulness comes into play is in noticing if I'm not exhibiting exemplary behavior, or if I'm feeling angry, upset, or jealous, being able to recognize that first and then bring me back to the place of, connecting with who I really want to be and how much I love and care for other people, even when they're ticking me off. Like
Right.
it's having the ability, dexterity to move between feeling hurt, angry, or upset, and just recognizing that is truly meaningless. And I don't mean to be callous, because there are things that happen that are really difficult for people. But when I know that I have the power to change how I feel, and that's what it boils down to. I could either contribute more anger, sadness, and destruction to whatever's going on, or I could change how I feel. And the question I go to is, in those situations, what would love do? If I could find a way to operate from love in this moment, what would that response be like? Or my highest, if this could work, and I got this from you one time, if I could imagine things turning out, even better than expected, what would that look like? It's like, oh,
rolling the camera forward. Yeah.
yeah.
So you're a positive person and you typically are hopeful. So you think that even people with poor behavior have a chance, like they can change their behaviors, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, good, because it's one of the principles, and we need to know that that's possible. And in fact, I think it's on like page 51. If I got this right, you have a list of guiding, right? Yeah, guiding values and principles, right? And so you give people in this book like some resources, and I don't want to look, they're like safety nets, right?
Mhm.
So if you're struggling with behavior, for instance, we'll get you a checklist and go through it. And when you're not responding like out of love, as you mentioned, go down the checklist. Like there are some really great actionable, items in here that can change a trajectory of a person's minute, hour, day, and keep them on this one philosophy path. And you've done a fantastic job about like, I relate it to bowling. You threw up good bumpers down in the gutters, so people can't throw a gutter ball. Like if they just stick with this, they're going to get a score. They're not going to have a gutter ball, right? And if they really work on it, they're going to have, a perfect 300 game. Before
Great.
we go on to
That was awesome.
Thanks. That's what it is for me. It's like, here's your bumpers. Now go live a great life. Along with that list of guiding, principles and beliefs and some of those things that you're giving, you're also, as you said, you went back and rewrote third edition. There's some really great stories in there that you give to illustrate the examples of what's going on. And one of my favorite happens to be of somebody that I know, Felice, right? So it's the number one son story, I think, in the book. Is that, I think it's how it's chaptered,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. So why did you select certain stories to illustrate? Like, which ones really pulled at your heart, or which ones did you feel like that has to be in the book?
So Felice's story comes in the place in the book where I'm inviting people to give up blaming and complaining and find a new way to look at some of the challenges they may have been experiencing. And Felice lost a son.
Mm.
And I think of all the challenges we could bear, it's one of the most, difficult, heart-wrenching things. And she shares how she found a new way to see it that lifted her up out of the darkness. So that's why I chose that one in particular. So somebody who's really suffering or dealing with a really difficult time say, wow, if she could find a new way, a new perspective to see losing a child, maybe I can get through this.
Yeah, very, very powerful. And the idea that we can have, you carry hope for people, there's hope that they can change their behavior, but there's even hope that they can go through something as excruciating as losing a child and still find something positive on the other side of that. Those are the extremely meaningful, illustrations in this book that will change your trajectory. Again, I say that, but I mean, it really does. So the fourth principle, so we've done the THE, and now we're on 4 of the 6th, and owning your life, like by taking 100% responsibility. We mentioned it just earlier when we were talking about it. I'm going to ask you a question before you talk about that answer. Was there a time in your life where you didn't take responsibility for something?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love how quick that answer came. Man, you want about honesty, people. Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And that's all I can say is, since I learned how to take 100% responsibility, and that's moment by moment, my friends. It's not, okay, I learned that, I don't have to do that. No, it's moment by moment. My life is so much happier, less drama, less conflict, more vitality in my physical beingness. Everything is better when I own my life with 100% responsibility.
And that's all I got to say about that.
Box chocolates.
Right. It's interesting that you said, you wanted this book in the hand at schools and of young kids and things like that. And we often see parents teaching kids things that actually don't allow them to take responsibility. So there will be inanimate objects, and a child will fall and hurt themselves, and the parent will say, that naughty merry-go-round, that bad merry-go-round. And so the child starts thinking like, it's not my responsibility, it's somebody else's fault. So the earlier we could get this kind of thinking in to children, and they can learn to really take responsibility, then they're going to feel more like their own captain of their ship. And it's not about, oh, all these things happen to me, but it's, these things are happening for me and I need to navigate. Yeah. Thank you for your honesty.
There's another layer in there too, especially as it pertains to children, because when we're kids, we are trained not to tell the truth.
Oh, yeah.
We are trained not to take responsibility, because if we take responsibility, we're going to get in trouble, and nobody likes to get in trouble.
Right.
So
I didn't break that. I didn't break that.
No, wasn't me. Well, there's even a song about it. Wasn't me, right?
Right.
So it goes back to actually principle number 1, talk less and listen more. As a parent, to create a safe space for your child to express themselves, even when they do things that aren't so good. And yeah, there'll be a consequence, but as parents, when we go, oh, I can't believe you. And I was that parent when I was younger. And I was a single mom raising a kid all by myself. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I made lots of mistakes.
We all do.
We all do, right? We don't keep making them, hopefully not the same ones anyway.
Right.
So as parents, we can help our children, just as you said, about not saying, oh, that bad playground, but also creating that space for them to own responsibility. You know, I didn't do my homework last night. Well, let's talk about it. What got in the way? Why didn't you do your homework? How can we help to make sure you get it done tomorrow? Rather than punishing. And there's a place for consequences. I totally get that. But it's the conversation and the way the consequences are delivered that will change how that child grows up.
Yeah, I think that's magic juice right there in a juice box for kids, because it all ties into the right kind of behavior, exemplary behavior. So are they demonstrating that? If they have some kind of a dream, I want to be a pilot, I want to be a doctor, I want to be ever, so helping them hold that dream of, does this behavior get you to that, or does it prohibit you from getting to that? So it's really all just like one big woven blanket of one philosophy that you can't just pull out one thread and leave the rest good. Like it all works together. And so number 5 is never, never, never gossip. Kind of back again to kids, teaching these things, right? So why 3 nevers, if you don't mind?
So when I first started teaching this and during live speaking engagements, I would say, and I spoke to lots of entrepreneurs at the time, I would be never, 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 never. And they would all say, quit, never quit. I was like, well, there are times you should quit things, and there are certain things you should quit, but that's not what I'm talking about, right?
Right.
That gossip. And they go, oh, right. And I had a woman in an event say, sitting at her table, oh, that's so hard. And I was like, I can get that. And here's a way that it could be easy for you. If you were to just make a commitment that you will never say something negative about someone that you're not willing to say to their face. Oh, okay. I could try that on.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. There are times we're ticked off, angry, and we've got stuff in us we need to get out. Get that out with somebody trusted that you can say, listen, I was with Bobby today, or, Sean, or whoever it really ticked me off. I just need to get this off my chest. Because if you don't get it out of you, it'll fester. So we need to process our emotions. Don't deny them. But gossiping is like poison spreading. And unfortunately, it's poison that you're drinking and you may not even realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's similar. I had 2 sons, Matthew and Christopher. And if I ever said something to one of them and I said, hey, no, don't say this to your brother, or we said it kind of in secret, they would know. The other one would know, like, well, if he's doing that with Matt, then he's doing that with me. And so it's just not exemplary behavior. Right?
It breaks trust. It breaks trust.
Yeah. And so then it doesn't matter. People aren't going to talk to you, even if you're willing to listen, because they know you might do something bad with what they share with you and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's great. Never, never, never. Yeah. I just always like never, never, never. 3s, like ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, 3 little pigs. 3. I think it's important to reemphasize. Yeah. Never, never, never gossip. So
it's interesting. Let me share this for a second, because
sure.
I just want to dovetail on what you said. If people hear you telling other people secrets, oh, she told me not to say anything, or he told me not to say anything, but I can tell you, you're breaking trust. They're not going to have that safe space to express themselves that we started this conversation about, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I'm in business with my 2 sisters. We're very close, and people will tell me things, as their coach, as their friend, whatever it is. And I don't tell my sisters, and they're like,
Yeah. And I used to use that as a filtering mechanism. Like if somebody came to me and said, hey, I got to tell you this, and it was gossipy, it wasn't confiding because they were frustrated or whatever, I would say, well, let's go get them and let's just talk about it. And they'd be like, no, 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 no. And so then they knew never to bring me that stuff again, because, I was just going to open it up and let the sun shine on it. And so, yeah, I think it's fantastic. Yeah, I think what we've been doing so far, hopefully, and for those that are listening out there, and watching is we've been doing actively number 6, right? The 6th principle, which is exercise your mind and your spirit, develop and grow daily. So one of the things I love about being around you is we're always kind of, you know, challenging each other and taking conversations into new places and looking for new words. And like you said earlier, expansive listening. I'd never heard that phrase. So I grew today because of you. And I think that principle, the old phrase, if you're not growing, you're probably dying, is so true. So give me a couple things that it can be over a month, the last year, whatever, where you really feel like you have grown.
I've deepened my daily practice. And this was also part of my inspiration for updating the book and releasing a new edition of it. When COVID hit and the lockdown happened, I found myself watching the news. I found myself feeling scared. You know, my whole business model was changing, and I was like concerned. And because I've been trained in the awareness, if I'm not feeling good, it actually means I'm focusing on what I don't want. So this is for everybody. Your feelings are a barometer to let you know whether you're focusing on what you want or what you don't want. If you're not feeling good, you're focusing on what you don't want. It's something from the past that you're lamenting, or something you wish you had, but so I noticed this worry coming up in me. So I immediately got involved in a new mastermind when it was all about, you know, stepping up your faith and your trust. And I increased my journaling practice. I started binge watching positivity on YouTube. I mean,
Sure, you got to do it all.
I did it all. And yeah, me and YouTube are great friends now. and so that was a newer practice for me to start doing those things. I've always been a reader. I always journal, but I layered in more because I could tell I needed more. And that made a difference.
Okay, and I know this about you. It's in the book, but a nice practice with a little Hawaiian twist to it. Share that with the audience. Like, what brings you back to center? Right?
It's my go-to.
Yeah, and I know this about it. And I think it's a great secret the rest of the world needs to know about if they haven't heard of it.
Agreed. So thank you. I want to share that even more. So it's a little prayer called Ho'oponopono. So Ho'oponopono, and you can go on YouTube. There's lots of videos about it. And what that is, it's a centering prayer tied to owning your life with 100% responsibility. And in the moment where you're feeling not so good, whatever those emotions are, angry, sad, upset, by remembering you have the power to reconnect to feelings of love. And sometimes it's more challenging than others. So the prayer is about getting you centered and back to zero. And it's way more than that. So in the book, I've given you a pretty good explanation of it. And I invite you to take a look on YouTube. There's some great videos, like I said, and it's 4 simple sentences. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And thank you. And you're actually speaking to spirit, source, God, universe, yourself. It's about you. It's about you and your relationship with you. Oh, I'm so sorry for being upset in this moment. I forgot that I could connect to, you know, feeling love in a moment if I choose to, and I can remember to. Please remove whatever's in me causing me to feel upset. It's not removing something out of this other person. Remove what's in me causing me to feel upset. Thank you. And we all know this. You heard the phrase, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's not because your husband left the toothpaste cap off.
No, it's the 50 things before the toothpaste.
Correct.
Yeah.
So when we get upset or angry about something, it's a memory from the past that's actually being triggered in that moment.
Yeah. So it's the Control Alt Delete, right? To get you reset. Yeah, and just start over. What I love about it, I love a lot of things about it. I don't know if I want to always say I love the most, but um, it's the focus on you can only control so many things. You can't control other people. You can't control the weather. You can control your internal thoughts unless you have a disability. You can control how you're resetting yourself, what you're focused on. So it gets you back to let me do what I can. Let me handle what I can handle. Let me control what I can control. And that's the best place to start every day, every challenge, overcoming things.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so I know we don't have a lot more time left, but give me a couple things that maybe legacy wise, and I know you're not a bragger and you have a vision, but it's not self-serving, but like,
Mhm.
tell me, like, legacy wise, what does it look like success after you and I are long gone? What is your hope for this, for the message in this, and for mankind or womankind or people kind, humankind?
So long range legacy wise is
Yeah.
that people are truly transformed and that they have these 6 go-to principles to remind them of who they really want to be. That's what it's about. I can tell you every single time I share the message of the one philosophy and what it means in treating every person you meet as the one, every single time I get, oh, yeah, and smiles. It
Yeah.
is who we want to be. I believe that's the essence of human nature, to want to be with each other, to belong, to be in community and get along. I believe we want that. So in terms of legacy, it's that these principles are so well known that, when you see this for the peace sign, there'll be some symbol that represents the one philosophy, or a namaste. There'll be something so universal that'll bring everybody back to being the one for each other.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And that's how I've seen it. I was honored, humbled. It was a privilege. I'm grateful I got to write the forward for this 3rd edition. Yeah. And when I write in there, I mean it. Like, I think this book is truly inclusive. Race, religion, color, creed, age, language, none of it matters. Like, this is about humanity. And this is like, the one ring to rule them all type of a thing, right? It will solve your challenges, your problems, makes the world a better place. Just stick with the 6 principles. You still and then on the 7th principle, rest. Like, it's like on the 6 days or 7 days if you're a believer, right? Great,
Awesome.
right? Yeah, then 7th day, just rest. Like, just do the 6 and then rest, and
Oh,
it's
have
gonna be,
fun. Oh,
yeah,
have
it's gonna be
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be an exclamation point, the one, and then exclamation point. But yeah, you have done life-changing, remarkable work with this book that is going to last eons beyond our lifetime, that hopefully people get the message, share the message, learn the principles, teach the principles. Hopefully we get it into the young people's hands, so we can grow the right way as humans. And I encourage everyone, like, it's going to be one of those books that you're going to have to buy multiple copies of, because you're going to dog ear, you're going to write, you're going to fold it up, you're going to keep it in your back pocket. Speaking of keeping it in their back pocket, I thought it was pretty darn cool that I saw a picture of the boss, Bruce Springsteen,
The
with
boss.
your book, yeah, in his back pocket. I mean, and this is a guy that has made a huge impact on America, and he's doing the right things for the right reasons. So kudos that there are people like the boss out there that, that value this book. So I value it.
Yeah. And value the message and the meaning of the book, which is we got to find our common ground.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So Nancy Matthews, congratulations, author of The One Philosophy, A Better Life for You and Humanity. Go get the book, study. I'm sure you're going to be sharing things about other opportunities people have, the People Skills Academy and all the good stuff coming down the road. But it was an honor and a privilege for me to share this time with you. Congratulations on the show. Just bring this to the world, girl. Just bring it to the world and let us all heal. So thank you.
I'm doing the work. step by step, and you're most welcome. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you today, and for seeing the vision, for holding it, for believing in the message and living it so beautifully as you do, and your amazing wife, Kim. We can't forget to talk about her today. She's huge positive impact and love in my life as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. So ladies and gentlemen, Nancy Matthews.
All right. Well, that was a fun show. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Nancy Matthews Show. Be sure to stick around. We've got more great shows in store for you. Thank you so much. Stay tuned, get out there, and be the one. Bye, Duane.
Bye-bye, Nancy.
Well, hello, and thanks for checking out this YouTube channel. If you like this video, be sure to hit subscribe and pass on the good news to someone that you care about. We'll be dropping videos quite often to support you in living your best life.